Welcome to Bloom Today. We have a lively show for you. We'll be asking, have Christian leaders arrived? We talk about internal and external brokenness and how you can heal
so that you can use the fertilizer of your past to bloom today. So welcome everybody. We are talking about how Christian leaders, is there such a thing as having arrived? Well, I've arrived. I don't know about you.
I arrived here this morning.
Yes. You arrived in this kitchen.
Does that count? I'm here. I arrived.
Yeah, it's so funny, but a lot of people just assume that if you're in a place of leadership or a spokesperson or somebody who has a ministry or runs a ministry or something, that somehow or another it's this fantasy. You've arrived at this place where you're now perfect and you're fine and there's no problems and you should just be 1,000% okay and just not have to have any worries anymore.
Fantastic. So now that I've got this television show, I can just relax and I won't worry about anything anymore. And I won't have any fear and I won't have any worries and I won't have any sadness and I won't have any challenges.
No pain, no trauma.
This is fantastic. When was someone going to tell me?
I know. I was waiting for somebody to tell me too, because here I am walking out my healing every single day. I'm still having the come aparts, as one of my friends says, and the crying sessions, and I'm still having trauma triggers I have to work through. And I have tons of healing. Like, it's not that I don't have healing. It's that there's no arriving. Like, I don't know where I'm supposed to arrive to get to this point where it's now okay. And I used to have that same idea. Well, when I get to this point, then I won't have all like the normal problems anymore. I'm going to be at this arrived. And then when I kind of got there and passed it, and I was like, it's not easier, it's worse. Because now it's not just my own struggles, but I'm also now having to deal with the pain of other people. I'm having to work through the impact of my actions, the judgment and questions from other people, being a public figure, all these other things. I'm like, wait a second, nobody told me that it wasn't just not suddenly magically better, but it's actually tougher.
Yeah, I think in leadership, it's so easy for people to see, oh, look, they're on a stage. So they can pull themselves together for 10 minutes here, an hour there, right? My preacher is great. Every time he shows up on Sunday morning, he's good. He's got it, or she's got it, you know? And so they must know everything, and they must, know all of the biblical stuff, and they must have all of the answers. Did you know? We have all the answers now. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah, except for the fact that I'm still going, God, I can't do this. God, I can't.
Yeah.
Like this morning.
Yeah. So, I think what happens is that we just need God more.
No question.
I think that's really what happens. And look, it's not, I said this level thing, new levels of ministry, new levels of healing. Oh yeah, well that too. But God, we've prayed very specifically that God would, support us in our character development as the ministry grows, so that the ministry wouldn't be bigger than our character development, which means, right, which means that God continues to grow us personally and work on our personal healing very quickly. In the last 3 years specifically, but it's been a struggle. But we can handle a ton more now because we have that healing than we could have 3 years ago when we started the show. Right. It's a completely different ballgame, and so we need God just as much. We reach out. We are desperate for Him just as much when we start to film and when we're asking Him, hey, bring all the people that you want, the stories that you want to bring, the hope that you want to bring, and let us just empty ourselves of ourselves and let us be filled up with the Holy Spirit, because we still got nothing to give. The Holy Spirit has everything to give, and there's an understanding of, now that we're here, we've got enough healing to rely on bringing the Holy Spirit in so that we can do the things that are at the next level.
Right. And the next level thing I was talking about, the more you become a shining light for Christ, the more the enemy wants to attack and destroy, because when you're shining light on life and good and healing and hope and all this stuff, then it's getting people hopeful when you're a public figure, or you're on a stage, or you're on TV or whatever. And then they go to Christ, and then they start getting healing, and the enemy is losing ground. Like his kingdom is losing territory. And so he starts focusing attention on attacking where that spearhead of light is that's messing with his stuff.
Yeah.
And especially when you're dealing with areas of real brokenness and real pain and shining a light in a unique way. I think that's even more so because it's kind of like going back behind the gates of hell and giving hope to people to pull them out. And he's like, wait a second, I traumatized them enough. I own them now. Like, how dare you come in and tell them they don't have to stay here, and that they can heal and they can grow and they can have a life and be vibrant and alive. And then they can start like getting people out.
Right.
And yeah, that didn't work too well. He likes to attack. And I think in leadership, you need more prayer. You need more support. You need more strategies and self-care and all of the things. And the relationship with God has to be that much more close and intimate.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you are lost. Like, it's going to be really bad.
I don't want to scare people from being leaders either. I mean, God is bigger.
Always.
Holy Spirit is bigger. We just need to be aware enough to keep going to God and keep going to the Holy Spirit and keep listening and surrendering and obeying and worshiping and getting all of what we need and staying in line with Him. And as long as we do, as long as we're in line with Him and we're listening and we're getting the help we need and the self-care and all of that, then we are able to really live out what He's asking us to live out. He wouldn't ask us to do it if it was totally impossible. And He wouldn't ask us to do it just to fail. No. It's just we need to be equipped and aware so that the enemy doesn't have the opportunity to come in. Because when you do have a public figure who is seems to be at the top or could be at the top of an organization, they are the figurehead, they're that face of the ministry. If they fall, then everyone who is looking to them, who is following them, who is looking to them for hope, even if it's just not as an idol, but as a pointing to God, right? If they fall, then everyone who had hope because of someone else's story, the enemy really would like for everyone else to fall and let that domino effect continue. Yeah,
and to question it. And for me, it was recognizing that I needed to be humble enough to ask for help. I needed to be humble enough to ask for the prayer and for the support and for the accountability and for the, in my case, it has included counseling and therapy and support groups and all this stuff. Just because I'm a leader doesn't mean that I wasn't going to celebrate recovery and continuing my journey. Yeah. It didn't mean I wasn't still going to counseling to deal with stuff, because as I healed, more things came to the surface that had been hidden before because I was too broken to even recognize them. And then I had to be willing to go for help. So I think we're blessed because we talk about this brokenness and healing. We can just be like, hey, y'all, guess what? I'm still healing. I'm still a work in progress. I still struggle. I still have to do all the things we talk about. It's not that I used to do those things. Now I'm healed. Now I've arrived. And now I don't have to do all that stuff anymore. I'm just going to tell you how to do it. Instead, it's I'm needing to do this every single day. I need to live this out daily. Like these strategies and this equipping and what God's given us and the need for help and support and community is an ongoing thing.
Right. And when you have people looking to you for help, for understanding, as pastors do or as we do, it's really easy to feel that pull of, okay, well, if they're asking me the question, I'm supposed to have all the answers. And I'm supposed to, let me fill that role. But so often I find that I have to go, you know what? I don't know the answer to that. Why don't you pray about it and ask God and let Him answer that for you? Because if I continue to be answering those questions and filling in those blanks for them, then I can become, the idol, the little God, and I maybe in myself, I can start to put that pressure on myself. Listen to that enemy voice saying, you're supposed to have all the answers, and if you don't, you're a failure. No, no, that's not how this works. I am the same broken type person with all the same temptations and an enemy coming after me as I was when I started this journey, as I am now.
Right. So with that, recognizing it and dealing with it, I love the fact that we have a guest coming in who is so transparent and vulnerable. And I'm so excited because I've actually been waiting 3 years for her to be here.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have.
So cool.
Jennifer Christie. She's the executive director of Love Louder, and she's also a pro-life motivational speaker. We're excited to have her here today. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I've been trying to do this for a long time.
Yes. And thank you for arriving here.
I've arrived.
3 years later.
It took me 3 years, but I've arrived. Yes.
Yes. Were you walking across the country?
I did. Slowly. I've arrived by,
by foot.
By foot. The only way to arrive.
Yes.
I love it. But you use your hands a lot as well because you are also a sign language interpreter.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
So you're going to sit here and have your whole conversation
and sign, yes.
and sign
Everything
too
will
at the
be
same
signed.
time.
Awesome. You're going to have to teach me how to sign single-handed.
That's impressive.
Alphabet.
That'll be
alphabet. She can do the alphabet.
Okay, good. That'll just take a lot longer for me to
spell every word.
Okay, so your story, because we can't teach me sign language here on the show, unfortunately. That'll be another 3 years.
That's later. Another
yeah.
Your story started while you were still while you were working as a sign language interpreter, correct?
Yes, and this was a story that we had originally planned on telling, and my story kind of
shifted. So we're gonna have more of a story.
Yeah. More of a story. My story started when I was a sign language interpreter, and I still am, but I've added to it. But 6 years ago, I was working a job out of town as a sign language interpreter, and I was staying in a hotel, and I was followed back to my room by a man who was would turn out a serial rapist and murderer, and I was attacked in my room, beaten, tortured, raped. My body was thrown in a stairwell. I was found outside in the snow. I had a brain bleed, broken ribs, broken fingers, a lot of internal damage. I've had 10 surgeries and since then to kind of fix what was destroyed.
By the grace of God.
By the grace of God, I survived.
Because he left you for dead, right?
He left me for dead. The speculation is that he heard someone coming and just kind of threw me down the stairwell, and it was likely that I would probably be dead if I wasn't found. I'm the only known survivor of this man, and the story kind of became
a bigger story.
When we found out 6 weeks later that I was pregnant, and telling my husband about this, he just very simply said, "Okay," and said, "This child was a gift. You know, this is something beautiful from something terrible, and we love babies, and we can do this." And we shared the story with a small group of other rape survivors, and the story was picked up very quickly and went viral. And we were completely unprepared for this. Like 1 million shares to Facebook. It went around the country, around the world, and we found people talking about this on radio shows, on TV shows, and everything. Not favorably, not saying good things about us at all. You know, these people are effed in the head. I would have scraped out that rapist DNA deposit, and great job, idiots. You're just spreading bad DNA into the world, and these people need to get the F off our planet and all this stuff.
It's horrible.
So sorry.
And I was, and our baby was new at this point, and I really didn't know when I shared with a small tiny website what was going to happen.
Right.
Naive at best, but I didn't know. And I wanted to know what everyone was saying about me. So I had my Google Translate out, and I'm like reading it, scrolling it, and looking in Italy, looking in Finland, looking in it, and like, why are the Danish so mean? And my husband's like, stop reading the comments, but I had to know. I had to know what everyone was saying. And it was terrible. And the story became so popular, though, that the man was killed. The man who attacked me was killed a few years later after we had found out repeatedly that, we found another body, another woman was killed, and the FBI was calling me to let me know this because there was a DNA match, so I was still involved in the case, and it was just, it was compounding on me. I had a lot of survivor's guilt. It was, we had left the state.
To heal
it was really hard to heal.
Yeah.
When I kept going back to maybe if I had stopped him, if I could have done something, if all of this, and I was doing some interviews here and there. My story kept getting told and retold, and some of it was altered and some of it was more dramatic, like he broke in through a window in her home, and I'm reading this, I'm like, that's not true. And but
that ended up leading to you being a spokesperson, because when I first met you, you were a spokesperson for pro-life. And traveling around the world.
That happened very quickly. Once he was dead and we felt able to share a little bit more openly, people were like, well, have you thought about speaking? And I'm like, no, haven't. And but doors started opening. At first it was, would you like to go to Ireland and share? And I was like, well, maybe. And it was a wonderful experience. It really was. So I was invited to speak everywhere. And then I shared my testimony in support of the heartbeat bill in Iowa, and not including a rape exception to support, children like my son. And that went viral, and that was on Glenn Beck, that was on Ben Shapiro, and my profile kept rising, and I wasn't ready. I'd never gotten healing.
In this community, the pro-life community and all of that, because it was always like, well, pro-life except for rape or except for whatever.
Cases of rape.
Right. So you were a spokesperson that was unique to the whole process, and it was all provable, documented storyline. And so you were like everywhere in those circles.
Yes.
But what room did that give you to actually work through and process all of this damage?
None.
Right,
none.
And pressure.
And I don't remember anyone along this journey saying, this only just happened. Like, are you ready to share this? Are you okay?
Right. Slow the train down.
Right, exactly. You were, this was a lot, know, are you ready to share this? And, and you could tell when I would share in those days, I couldn't get through any speech or anything without breaking down, without like really crying. And I still do. I know how to temper it now, but when I would share, I was reliving it.
Right.
And you could see it. I'm doubling over, I'm going through it, and I was willing to gut myself in front of crowds of hundreds or thousands because I cared so much about the movement. I cared so much about the cause. It felt like I was saving my son, and people would come up and they changed their mind on a rape exception, or and I felt like, well, that's worth it. But then it got to the point where I was not okay. I was really not okay. Yeah. And I was talking to people, but I had read thousands of comments. Oh, this woman's a hero. And the headlines, her son healed her. Healed. She's healed. I'm healed.
So you had to be healed.
I had to be
healed.
You had to arrive. I've read it.
Absolutely.
I had to have arrived.
The media
I read that.
It
told
was
me.
on the internet.
It was exactly. So we know it had to be true. I've read it thousands and thousands of times. How my son has healed me, and so what does it mean if I'm not okay?
Right.
What does that mean then? And so I started to say, well, I need a break. I need to get help. And I was in Malta. My friends had watched me break down slowly, and they're writing my husband, and they're like, she's not okay. And he's like, I don't know. She's not stopping. I don't know what to do. Right. And I'm in Malta, and they have this schedule for me. They were wonderful to me there, but they have this schedule for me where I'm doing TV and news and churches and schools and like multiple things a day. And I made that schedule for one day. Right. And my husband was with me, and we're in the back of this car, and I just break down and I start to cry. And I say, I can't do it. And the person driving us is from the organization that brought us out there. And she's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I can't. And she goes, well, that's okay. Jeff will do it. And he's like, what now? What do I do? And he is not a speaker, my husband, at all. He gets nervous in front of crowds. I do not. But he's like, I'm game. I can do this. It's fine. And it was actually really good because people don't usually hear from a man.
Yeah.
And that was something else that made my story really unique and made it really kind of spread, is that I have this man beside me who was like, this is my wife and we're one and she's having a baby. So this is our child. Yeah. Right. No question, no anything. He really hates when people call him like a hero or whatever. It drives him crazy, but that's He's just like, I'm just, this is what we're supposed
Role
to do.
model, right.
You know, this is what we're supposed to do.
But the story gets worse because it hits critical mass. I know.
Yes. I was breaking down in Malta. I said, I need help. I'm not doing well. I'm starting to self-harm. I'm starting to cut. I'm starting to have ideations of suicide. I was having lots of flashbacks. I was having panic attacks. I was having seizures from the brain bleed that happened when I was attacked. And
and emotional, physical.
I was told, and I was told, you can't stop. If you stop, people are going to think you don't love your son. If you stop, you're going to hurt the whole pro-life movement.
Wow.
And
so sorry.
Wow.
So I didn't stop.
Oh my gosh.
And come February, I speak at this wonderful event in New Jersey. And hundreds of people I'm standing before, and I'm telling my story, and it ends, and it was a Catholic event, and a priest comes up afterwards, and he goes, I just feel, can we lay hands on you? Okay. And they do, and it was a beautiful moment, and I get 2 standing ovations. I sign a song at the end, and people are crying, and it was beautiful, and I'm a hero, and all this stuff. And I remember thinking, why do I have to be a villain to one side and a hero to the other? Why can't I just be a woman who something horrible happened to, and I had a baby, and this is my story? Why does it have to be so extreme? And I go back to the hotel, and I overdose, and I put myself into a coma. And I wake up a few weeks later, and all of the pro-life people, the places I was affiliated with, had scrubbed me from their, their pages.
They just totally rejected and shut you out.
The pro-lifers, I was no longer useful to. I was no longer a hero. I was no longer,
because you were a real human.
Because
who was really hurt.
I had broken. I was no longer
not so pro-life. Doesn't sound so pro-life.
It doesn't seem so, and I still hear
I want to be pro your life as well as your son's.
I was no longer, and I hear different things still. I hear people are like, Jennifer Christie, didn't you go crazy? a little bit, I did maybe, but for a while, for a long time after that, I spent 2.5 weeks in a coma, and then another week in critical care, and then spent some time in the psych unit, and which is not a bad place to be when you break.
You need healing and help and support.
You spend some time just you and God. You're completely unplugged, and it's like, okay, well, this is where I am, and now what?
Yeah.
But you actually needed that care and that help and that support to start with.
Yeah.
And you needed that care and that help and that support the entire time, especially when you were having a grueling schedule and you were having to revisit that devastation and pain and hardship over and over again. And to me, the fact that you have since taken that as a huge, important piece of your current self-care and journey and being honest and open about it, that yes, you have a story, but you still need healing and care like we do. We definitely do.
Yes. And you have gotten that, and you have seen healing through that process.
I'm one of those people who really needs something extreme to happen. Before, for God, I need the burning bush. I need something. I'm not one of those who God can just whisper into. No, I don't get that. I need a huge slap upside that, and He does that. He accommodates. So
I've had 1 or 2 of those.
Yeah. So when I got out of the hospital and I got some healing, and I found my tribe, and I started to really kind of look at the pro-life movement, and it's like any other community. There's good, there's bad. And there was a real absence of, there's a real need, let me say that, there's a real need for a place for women who just need someone. When you're raped, when you're traumatized, if you don't want to share your story, if you don't want to be a cog in the machine, if you're just broken, there was really nowhere to go.
Right.
And so I thought, well, why can't I make a place for that?
And you did.
So I did.
Yeah,
and so that's what Love Louder is. And we got that name when people started asking us. Originally, when I started sharing my story, and people were like, well, what are you going to tell your son when he's older? He's 5 now. And I said, well, we'll tell him that when I was pregnant with you all, all the people were shouting at us. The world was shouting at us. You're a child from rape, and you don't deserve to be here. You shouldn't be here. And those voices were loud, but we loved you louder. And that grew into,
chills.
Yeah. That grew into all these people. There's a lot of hate out there, and there's a lot of discompassion and all of that. And we need to be the ones loving louder. And so that's what we have.
I love that. And that fits right in with us as far as needing to show that love and that life and that hope, and not just in the event or the trauma, but in the process.
Yes.
In the process of being a voice, in the process of reaching out and helping others, that we still need all of that hope and care and life as well on a daily ongoing basis. And I know with what we do and what you do, we're going to need it like from now on. Like there's no arriving at no longer needing.
No,
all
and we're all broken,
support.
and it's okay to not be okay.
Yes.
And that's huge.
Completely.
And I went public with this, and I was expecting recrimination. I was expecting people to be like, you're not who we thought you were. And I said that too. And I said, I understand if that's, if you want to call me a fake, if you want to call me all of that. I said, but you also need to call me, forgiven. And that's the title that I'm carrying. And I got nothing but my page has just under 50,000 followers, and I got nothing but hundreds and hundreds of beautiful comments and support. And thank you for your authenticity.
Awesome.
Thank you and it just showed me what a need there is out there for people to be real.
Yes.
Really real.
100%. Because if they see us in leadership being real, being authentic, sharing that there's a struggle too, then it's okay for them to have a struggle. And it's okay. Like, if someone who looks like they're all together is struggling, or who, has a platform is struggling, then it's okay for me as well. And we can learn how to get help. And I love this idea of love louder for others, but also for ourselves. Yeah. We need to love ourselves. We need to receive God's love for ourselves louder than what we are able to pour out as well.
I think that's harder.
Yeah.
It's harder to receive than it is to give.
Yeah.
But that's a part of the healing process, is learning how to accept and receive and realize that we can't pour out of an empty cup. It has to be pouring out of the overflow.
That's one of my favorite sayings. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, in Psalms it talks about my cup overflows, and I keep going back to that again with, if I'm a vessel, broken vessel of honor is what I called it.
Yep.
And Christ is pouring in, he can pour that out, and out of that overflow is what helps other people and encourages them.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you for showing us that you don't need to put your hand over that cup. You need to keep receiving.
That's right.
You're the cup. You're not what's poured in. You're just the cup receiving. So it's amazing. Thank you so much again for being vulnerable and sharing and transparent and showing the healing is possible and that it is necessary.
And what God can do with a broken mess.
Absolutely.
100%. We call it using the fertilizer of your past
and our past
to bloom today.